Dr. Plant is going to be leaving us, I believe, after celebration. I don't know all the full details on it, but we've really appreciated the contributions that he's given to Isogenics. But I am so excited and feel very confident and assured that Dr. Paul is going to be leading the reins, taking a hold of the reins here and leading us. And I had a chance to talk with him a few minutes before the Zoom here and the direction that he's looking at going in. And maybe just speak a little bit to that real quick, Dr. Paul. Maybe some people, this is news to them, first time hearing it. But why don't you speak to that a little bit and what we talked a little bit about, the direction that you want to go and what you see for Isogenics.
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Dave, for having me, and thank you all for jumping on here. I think tonight, what's tonight?
Thursday.
Thursday, yeah, Thursday night. Wow. Yeah, I'm really honored, so grateful for this opportunity. As many of you know, I've been with Isogenics as a third-party independent scientist for 11 years. Wow, it's a long time. Of my 38-year career as a scientist. So yeah, it's been significant. It's been wonderful. And I've seen a lot of an evolution of the company in a real positive way. I think there's a definite opportunity for us to become more hyper-focused on what Isogenics does best, and that is provide the highest quality nutrition and nourishment for people to safeguard against disease, and much of what we hear about right now that's so popular, these diseases of aging, metabolic dysfunction, heart disease, neurodegenerative decline, which includes, the traditional cognitive decline diseases of Parkinson's and Alzheimer's, but things like autism and depression and loneliness and anxiety. So those things. And then the whole toxin inflammatory states that so many people are suffering with, and then musculoskeletal. So I kind of, speak to each of those 5 diseases of aging. And I know that they become obviously much more prominent for lots of different reasons, but Isogenics has a total perfect play here with those in terms of the quality of the nourishment that we provide to help safeguard against these things. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. Just focus on that a little bit more as the solution to those things, and and to make the application of the nutrition systems of Isogenics more personal, more customized. I think that's what people struggle with. They are consuming the products, but maybe perhaps not necessarily as individualized as they could be for them specifically. So we call it precision nutrition. And I'm really excited about diving into that much more and providing a real clear pathway for people to optimize their response to the nutrition products of Isogenics through this greater customization, personalization, individualization, or as we really refer to it, precision in terms of how we consume it. And then third, I guess, a third aspect, I'm just kind of talking generalities, and I'll share some of this at Celebration, but a third one would be to really master the nutrition around fitness and an active lifestyle, because that's so needed. Because we're all athletes. You've heard me say this before at some way, shape, or form or level, even if it's not going out and playing a sport, but it's just, being in the game of life, just being in the game of life and not on the sidelines spectating, but actually participating. That's an athlete. And so that's what I'm really speaking to. And there's some specific things that we can all do that are different from what we would do in terms of optimizing our body composition, reducing our metabolic risk for metabolic dysfunction, heart disease, neurocognitive decline, toxin inflammatory related conditions, musculoskeletal related conditions. There's different things that we want to really hone in on to help support a more active lifestyle, take us to that next level of really living our life to the fullest. So those are the things that I'm most excited about. That's what I've spent my 38-year career as a nutrition applied physiologists doing? And I think we have to get back to, the application of nutrition to the physiology of our body, how our body works. What is it? And that's what I provide. That's the unique perspective. I've, been through Isogenics now for 11 years with 4 maybe different chief science officers. And, in defense of them, they're not scientists necessarily, right? I mean, they're corporate level executives that have been trained not necessarily for science, but for product development, which is great. But I think making that seamless connection to people like all of you on this call right now in their everyday life of living in the wild of the world. What can you consume that can nourish your body to not just protect against disease and optimize your health, but allow you to perform in whatever you want to be able to perform at better and to a higher level of engagement. That's the work that I do. That's the science that I do. So yeah, I'm super excited. I feel like I was born for this position. I really do. I feel like this is what I've been preparing for and training for and studying for and conducting all of these research studies and living in the world of nutrition for 38 years. And so it's brought me to this point. Many of you know me and the research that I've done. So to be able to now make this real and part of your everyday life, I think this is just the beginning. This is the beginning of the end. So yeah, I'm really excited.
I'm excited that you're excited, and I'm still excited just overall. How many of you got the chill factors right now, right? I have these waves of chills. And I was mentioning this, Dr. Paul, when I got in Isogenics, there were some great people training from the stage that really the science of the products and how that impacted the physiology. And as we were educated on that, I believe that's what created that passion that really swelled Isogenics, and it is an educational process, but it's got to be this deeper, more profound education like what you have to offer. I am so excited that you're going to be at the helm with that and seeing that. I'm probably more excited than I've ever been, knowing that we're going to get back to that. And if you guys agree with that, type of 1 in the chat box. We want to know the science, we want to know the body, we want to know which products are doing what for the human body, and then sharing that with other people. It is what creates that passion. So I'm looking for hitting some new highs in Isogenics with you leading the way, because who else could do it better than Dr. Paul, right? So there's a movement going on right now. And just before we go into the athlete and the clinicals and the studies there, which we'll spend the majority of the time, I just want to hit on one other subject. If you're paying attention, what's going on out there, and not so much in politics, but in that realm of people who walk the halls of Congress and our politicians. And just recently we had RFK talk about, he said the same thing that you did. He was born and he's been praying every day for God to put him in a position to where he can help combat this health crisis that we're in. And, so there's an energy around what we've been doing and what we've been so passionate about. It's like, okay, we're glad you're on the same train as us now, but to have it on that level, right? Because now we're talking about people who can really make the difference, when it comes to, what we can say and what we can do and how we could go about talking about it. And I'm super excited about that. Do you have anything you want to share along those lines and say about that?
Oh, yeah, for sure, Dave. I mean, this is finally been made public. I guess if you want to say that, right? I mean, we're finally talking about it among the stakeholders that can actually affect this change at the highest level. It all started, of course, I mean, just a real quick summary, having lived through it, with the tobacco industry and how they duped even doctors. I mean, think about that. I mean, not many people recall the history of how that all came about with the tobacco industry, with Philip Morris and R.J. Reynolds. But, they even had doctors duped that, cigarettes are perfectly safe. In fact, in some cases, they're healthy. That was some of the play. And I grew up watching cigarette commercials. So we all know that they were addictive, not just the nicotine, but the other chemicals that they put inside the cigarette. So as soon as the world came crashing down on the tobacco industry, many of those same scientists who flooded the cigarettes with those addictive chemicals literally changed positions over to the food industry, right? Think about it, 1980. And they started to incorporate those same addictive properties into the food. In fact, they became very high, prominent food manufacturing executives at Kraft's Food and Nabisco Food and the major food players in the world. So, it's no mystery. This is, in fact, oh gosh, there's an article, there's a published research study that just came out, and I know you guys love the science. Let me see if I have it handy for you, because yeah, just to let you know that this isn't stuff that is kind of
Well, and they lobbied for it, right? Like literally, they were deceiving people through paying off certain people and sending those lobbyists and
oh, for
what they
sure.
do, right? And so a lot of deception. And this is great that it's all coming to the forefront now. And we're positioned
Yeah,
for 20 years now. We've been preparing for this day.
for sure. Yeah, there's no doubt. And so anyway, not to go into this, but there's a lot of history behind it. What the consequence or the end effect of that has been is ultra processed food that has flooded um, our food supply. It's our primary food supply. And it's no mystery that these diseases have just absolutely blossomed. They've taken over. They're insidious and they're everywhere. And we need to do something about it. Here's the great news, and we'll just maybe finish on this note. Isogenics has the solution. Isogenics is the solution to this pandemic of disease, these diseases of aging that are not just for people as they get older, but for young boys and girls. We know that young boys and girls suffer from metabolic dysfunction. Young boys and girls suffer from heart disease. Young boys and girls suffer from neurodegenerative changes in their brain health, right? Their productivity, their attention, their feelings of depression and anxiety and loneliness. We know that many of them are on drugs that try to combat, we call them SSRIs. We know that many of them suffer from these autoimmune diseases and inflammatory conditions at much younger ages than have ever been documented in the history of humankind. And then finally, these musculoskeletal. Many of them have very, very low levels of muscle mass, sarcopenia. Their bone mineral density is very, very low. These are young boys and girls that should not be suffering from these conditions. These are conditions that we usually had reserved for adults, but even then, they were very, very rare in some cases. And now they're becoming just so much more prominent. So not to belabor this, but it's a pandemic. We have to do something about it. Finally, these people in these power positions are willing to take this on, as you mentioned. But here's what I consider the most exciting of all. Isogenics has the solution. We have the scientific data to show improvement. Most of those conditions are driven. They're driven. Listen, this is really important. If there's one point, I always like to leave, maybe one or two points that people, after I finish talking, can take with them and actually grasp and articulate and spread with other people. The primary driving force behind all of those diseases of aging that are now being experienced and part of young boys and girls' lives, unfortunately, is metabolic dysfunction. It's the metabolism, it's the disruption of how the cells of their body, all over their body, are operating, which is incorrectly. It's dysfunctional. So it starts with metabolic dysfunction. And the trigger for metabolic dysfunction is ultra-processed food. The antidote or treatment and solution to correcting metabolic dysfunction in the cell is healthy nourishment. Isogenics has that solution. That's going to impact their risk, lower their risk for heart disease, lower their risk for neurocognitive and emotional psychological disturbance, inflammatory conditions, and the musculoskeletal. That's all I can tell you, and that's scientifically proven. It's not an opinion of mine or a belief. It's actually scientific physiological fact that once you incorporate higher nutrition food, you change the metabolism within the cell, the mitochondria that regulates our metabolism. And all of these diseases are born out of metabolic dysfunction. We know that people, they don't get Alzheimer's just out of the blue. They get Alzheimer's that is exacerbated and triggered by poor metabolism. It's metabolic dysfunction that usually sets in place that disrupts healthy brain cells. So,
Wow. If you guys are excited, type a 2 into the box. Oh my gosh, this is going to be awesome. So looking forward to uh, the future here with Isogenics. All right. So without any further delay, let's go into, you did this clinical study with top performing, peak performing athletes. And I remember you saying, I was expecting they were going to get better results because of the study I had just done, but I didn't know they were going to have these kind of results. More outliers came out in this study. And I'm excited for you to be able to share this with the group here tonight. So
yeah, thanks.
toss it over to you. Let's go.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, it's really exciting to be able to have this opportunity to talk about this because we don't talk enough about it, first of all. So I get called by journalists or emailed by journalists weekly. There's not a week that goes by that I don't have a journalist call me asking or inviting me to comment on either my research or a recently published scientific study. So what I'm going to do right now, hopefully I can share my screen with everybody. I just want to share this because I think this is really appropriate for tonight's call. Can you all see my screen?
Yes.
Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So before I get to this. So what this study was that they were interested in me commenting on was the study that just got published in a leading journal. I published in this with the microbiome study of Isogenics. If you recall, it was in Nature Communications. This one was in Nature Aging. They showed that when they collected data, accelerometry data, so they were wearing like a Fitbit or an Apple or a Garmin or a Polar or a Whoop or an Aura. Are you all familiar with some of those? Those are just tracking devices that people use to help them better understand what their activity and movement habits are. So it's a really good awareness factor. I wear my Apple Watch just for that. Not so much for the steps, although I do that sometimes, but more so from, how I'm engaging in the activities that I do in terms of the intensity. So anyway, that's really important, the intensity. It's the most important factor, by the way, not the quantity. Quantity is never, even with food, it's not about the amount of food that you eat. It's about the quality of food. It's not about the amount of exercise that you do. It's about the quality of exercise that you do. That's point number 2 that I hope you all take home with you tonight. So one would be that metabolic dysfunction drives all the diseases of aging that are starting to occur in younger boys and girls and progress through our entire life and shorten our health span. Number 2 point is that the quality of what we engage in and what we nourish our body with reigns supreme and is always going to be the most important factor. So this study that just got published, the journalist called me. They want to do it for a major medical publication. It's called MedPage, which all the doctors read. So it's one of the most common sites for doctors to obtain their information. So I'll be quoted on it next week in the article. This study took 75,000 study participants and quantified their accelerometry data over a certain period of time. And they showed that those that only exercised 1 day or 2 days compared to those that were doing regular exercise over the course of the week, like 5, 6, 7 days a week, were just as healthy at reducing risk for brain and cognitive decline. That's amazing. I mean, that finding alone is incredible. So this was things like Parkinson's disease, Alzheimer's disease, loneliness, depression, anxiety. Those were the 5 main conditions that they were examining in this group of people that were between the ages of 40 and 79. All right, so this is middle age to older. And what they showed was if they engage in just those 1 or 2 days, they called them weekend warriors. So if they looked at people's data and they showed that some people were only exercising once or twice a week compared to those that were doing it much more often, but the intensity was high enough, if we call it moderate to vigorous physical activity, they were protected against risk for getting these diseases. It was much lower risk, and that's a really good sign. So my point to all of this is that we need to go back to fully appreciating that it's less about the amount of exercise, the amount of steps that we do. Sure, we want to, try to gain as many steps a day as we can up to a certain level. There's no real benefit beyond 10,000 steps a day. I know sometimes people think, oh, more is better. It's really not. The science shows that anywhere between 4 to 10,000 steps a day is perfectly healthy and really good. So that's kind of your goal. And then you get exercise on top of that, but it doesn't need to be as much as I think a lot of times we think it is. So I just wanted to share that with you because it dovetails very nicely into the study that I wanted to share with you tonight. And that is my prize study that I did with the Isagenix products. So as many of you know, I've written this book, The Prize Life. It's about protein pacing, nutritional fasting, using the Isagenix system. So I call it protein pacing and nutritional fasting because that's what I have created over my 38-year career as a nutrition applied physiology scientist. So I've written it for the masses, but the book is tailored written for Isagenix because it speaks specifically to incorporating the highest quality protein as undenatured grass-fed whey protein, and then providing for most of the days of the week, 5 to 6 days a week, and then for 1 or 2 days a week, you undergo this very, very high quality nutritional fast with things that have rich antioxidants and adaptogens. And guess what that is? That's Cleanse for Life and Ionics. So that's what the protein pacing is. And so it's an acronym prize. And then there's resistance, interval stretching, and endurance. And you're only doing those once a week. So as Dave said, I wanted to test prize using the Isagenix products because I had phenomenal success with prize using other forms of protein from either whole food or supplementation. So I said, I'm going to take it to the next level. So I recruited 30 women and 20 men. Now, here's what's very interesting. That equals 50, but there were over 200 that were interested in participating in the study. And of course, when you do a research study, you can't have everybody participate. It's too much. It's too much time, energy, and cost, to be honest with you, because we're providing them their nourishment every day over the course of the study. So this is kind of the rigor and the sophistication of the research that I do using the Isagenix systems. I want everyone to have an appreciation for this. So the other study that collected 75,000 data points, they didn't do any intervention. They just collected data from the biobank over in Great Britain, the UK, of people that had registered using one of these accelerometers on their wrist. So they didn't intervene in that study. So that's why they were able to, use this data from 75,000. We actually we went out and recruited. There was 200 that wanted to get into the study, but we selected kind of the 50 of the fittest. So gosh, there's so much I want to say. I hope you guys are following this because this is so awesome. We took the 50 fittest of these men and women. Listen, you all know, Wendy's on this call, some of you others that are, very fit and toned. I'm fit. I'm very fit. We have a ceiling of what we can get to with our fitness, right? You can only get so high. We were taking those that were already close to the ceiling. If this hand that I have up on the top is the ceiling of what we can achieve with fitness, I know it's always variable and there's always a little bit more you can push, but these people were close to that ceiling. They were really fit, these 50. So I went into this study very skeptical. I said, all right, I'm taking the top 50 of the fittest men and women in our community, of the 200 that were over 200 that were interested. The likelihood of seeing a benefit of Isagenix is slim to nil. Literally, it was slim to nil is what I was expecting. But I had to do the study to test this, and I wanted to test it compared to what people were traditionally using. So as you see, there was the prize group that was the Isagenix group, and then the rise group that was what we called the commonly recommended nutrition products that people would take, that you're all probably familiar with. You see some of the products that you see on the screen. But here's the catch. They did identical exercise. Not only that, here's what's so awesome about this study. These people were highly trained. In fact, we only took people that were exercising a minimum of 4 days a week. The average was 7 days a week, somewhere around there. It was like 5.2, maybe 5.5. Let's just call it 5.5 for safety. These people were exercising 5.5 days a week. They thought, no, I'm not going down to 4 days. And I said, well, no, the only way you can get into this study is if you abide by the rules. And that is, you only are allowed to exercise 4 days a week. And many of them said, what? So we had to pay them to keep them in the study. And you do that in research. It's not unusual. So not only did we pay them, not only did we feed them all the food that they were consuming over the course of the 12 weeks. I mean, think about this. This is a massive undertaking. 50 of these men and women. I had a team of 12 researchers that worked, with me, under me, for me on this study, constant supervision. It's amazing. They were very skeptical. In fact, I remember the first week they used to come in not really believing and teetering on, dropping out and what we call non-compliant and dropping out of the study. And my team and I kept on encouraging them, hey, stay with it. By the second week, that's when the aha moment came in. They all came in with a twinkle in their eye. They came in with an extra step of energy in their gait and their walking. They were blown away at how they responded. And here's what I want to make as a point. What we think is the recommended or the optimal amount of exercise is not what it is. Everyone thinks that if you're not exercising for 5, 6, 7 days a week, you're not cutting the mustard. Well, I just showed you that that's a bunch of dog water, because that study from the biobank showed that those that were doing it just once or twice a week had the same benefit as those that were doing it 5, 7 days a week. I showed the same thing years ago when I did this study. This was 9 years ago I did this study. And Isogenics hasn't played it up enough. If this biobank study is making it with the accelerometers, heck yeah, you should be screaming this from the rooftops, that Isogenics has something that nobody else has. We have scientific proof that if you reduce your exercise down to 4 days, only doing each of those exercises of resistance, interval, stretching, and endurance one day, so you do it 4 days total over the week, each of them one time, compared to your normal routine. We had some that were, rabid weightlifters. They were going in and weightlifting, before the study 5, 6 days a week, split routines, pyramid and periodizing it, and everything. I mean, they were slicing and dicing every way they could to increase their muscle mass. Wait until I get to the findings of this study. At the halfway point, we brought them in. I can't remember if we did it every month or at six weeks. I think it was 6 weeks. So I think we did, the pre-testing, which they came in and they were very fit. We did the midway point testing at 6 weeks, and then the 12-week. When they saw their results at 12 weeks, I mean, some of them almost passed out. They were blown away, because they thought when they came into the study, they were already super fit. And because we were paying them and they had a relationship, with some of the research that I had done or had known me, they wanted to do it. And they were intrigued by wanting to see what this was all about. When they saw how their bodies improved at the halfway point, they couldn't believe it. And this was the one comment that they all had. I feel rejuvenated. I feel refreshed. I feel like I finally have energy that I didn't know I had. And that was the most common point that they made. They did identical exercise. Both groups had significant improvement. The group that was doing just the rise and the normally recommended, but the group that was using the Isogenics at the same time, performing it, because they exercised together. There was no difference in the times that they were exercising. We had some doing it in the morning, some doing it in the evening, but they were all mixed together. A lot of them didn't know who was in what group. They just knew that they were coming at those exercise times and doing the exercise with each other at the same time. So no difference with exercise. And here's the third takeaway for tonight. When it comes to optimizing our physical performance of us being an athlete, and I don't mean the ones that, go out and play a sport competitively. I'm talking about the game of life that I mentioned at the beginning. Your ability to do that better, if it's walking on the beach or playing on the beach with your grandchildren, or it's going out for a walk with your dog, or it's playing pickleball on the weekend, I don't care what it is, you're going to be able to do it better when you consume the Isagenix products. That's the bottom line, because there was no difference between the groups in the exercise that they were doing. We had this locked in. In fact, they had to wear an accelerometer, and instead of wearing it around their wrist, which is not quite as accurate, and that was one of the limitations of that study in Nature that I just reported on. We had them wear it around their waist. They had to wear them around their waist for 12 weeks straight. We had the data. We know they wore them because we had verification. We could monitor them remotely. So we could see if they were wearing them or not. They were wearing them. So there was no difference in their exercise between the two groups, like one group is doing more. So this was the routine, just real quickly. Monday, they did resistance. Tuesday, they they protein paced, or they did the normal nutrition. Wednesday, they did the high intensity intervals. We call it HIIT training or sit training, sprint interval training. Thursday, they did the stretching routine, which is also joint mobility, a little bit of yoga, some Pilates. The Friday, they did kind of an active recovery again, with a protein paste, of course. And then Saturday or Sunday, we gave them the choice. They just went out and did their longer walk or hike or bike or swim or whatever they wanted to do that was continuous, full body, rhythmical endurance, low level, low intensity exercise. So that was the prize workout. Look at these results. This is the women. This is in comparison to the group that was doing the rise. So the rise increased. Again, both groups had significant improvement in all of these physical performance outcomes. All groups improved. But look at the difference in the quality of the improvement in each of these things. The women that were consuming the Isagenix products increased their upper body muscular endurance, so their ability to do push-ups 2 times more. They did, I think, on average, 12 more push-ups in comparison. This is on average of the total group, to the group that did the prize, who also increased their ability to do push-ups by twice as much. They got like 6 extra push-ups. That's a lot. 6 extra push-ups is a lot in 12 weeks to already fit women. But to do double that, I mean, that's just absolutely mind-blowing. So you tell me which one, wins the day. 2 times more core muscular strength. We measured that with a specific type of crunch. So they did crunches, abdominal exercises that we use in the laboratory. They had a 5 times greater increase in their upper body explosive power. That's the machine that you see there on the screen that one of our study participants. This was a professional roller derby athlete, V. So she was just demonstrating, she's throwing up, I don't know, maybe 20 pounds on each, which is not a lot. So she was just, demoing it for the video, but she got massively stronger in her upper body. She said she was putting people over the rails with ease. So 5 times more greater strength of explosive power. And then they had 5 times less stiffness in their arteries, because we also measure many health outcomes. So these findings in the women, just absolutely mind-blowing. But it didn't end there. This is Clint. He's throwing up a lot of weight, over 100 pounds. I remember it. And he's jumping off the ground with it. They had 2 times more upper body strength. That was measured with 1 repetition maximum bench presses. They had 4 times more aerobic power. We had them do a 5-kilometer cycle sprint test. So they rode 5 kilometers on a stationary bike as fast as they could. They increased by 4 times more. And I forget how many seconds. I think it was about 31 seconds. A 5-kilometer bike ride is not that long. And to have an improvement of 30 seconds better, I mean, again, both groups improved drastically. So this is all in comparison to the group that was also doing the prize. 4 times quicker they sprinted that bike race. They had 4 times more lower body explosive power. That's what Clint was just doing, the jumping with weight on their shoulders. They had 14 times greater ability to jump with this explosive power. This is a very sophisticated, it's called the ballistic measurement system. So it's thousands of dollars. You can see the power measure. That's the thing coming on the top where the yellow strap is. So that's quantifying in watts. It's a measurement of watts of the power that Clint is generating when he pushes himself up. That's amazing. 14 times greater ability to generate force in the lower body. Think about this. I mean, I know we always associate things with being a professional or an elite athlete. It has nothing to do with that in many ways. Imagine if you had to, jump up or spring up or move yourself. Let's say you were in a pool or in a body of water where you needed to pull yourself, literally, push yourself up or jump out of danger. Think about that. I mean, jumping out of danger. Imagine having 14 times greater ability to power your way out of a harmful situation. I mean, it's insane, these results that we don't talk about enough. And then a 3 times greater lower back hamstring. Now, I love this one because if those of you that were listening, the fifth disease of aging, I know all of you were, but the fifth disease of aging is lack of mobility, lack of flexibility. We see this in young boys and girls. Do you know that over 70% of young men and women are not eligible currently? They're not eligible. 70% of our population is not eligible to enter into the armed forces. I'll say it again for those of you that didn't hear it. 70%. That's bizarre. Never in the history of our country have we had the majority of our youth population of military age recruit age not be eligible. They have to go to a pre-basic training, right? It used to be, hey, you go to basic training to prepare you to go into the armed force division that you want to go into. Guess what? We have a pre-basic training. I know this because I'm working on this with some of the military. We have to get them in shape. We have to get them to lose lots of weight, lots of fat, and increase their flexibility. But one of the most commonly reported musculoskeletal problems and pain sites is low back pain. And guess what? Low back pain is driven by this inability to have muscle flexibility and joint mobility. It's directly related. Listen, you guys have something that no one else has. I said this in Montreal last week. I was there speaking because so often in life we think, that looks pretty nice over there. I think I want to go over there. I'm not so sure I want to stay where I am. And I experienced that. Those of you that know my story, I was heavily recruited by a major Research One University of Pittsburgh. It's world leading. It's one of the top NIH, National Institute of Health funded research universities. They recruited me from a small little college in upstate New York, and they recruited me heavily for 5 years, asking me, what in the world do we need to do to get you here? I finally said, okay, I'll come, when they also gave my wife a new job. But they gave me tenure and full professor as I walked in the door. That's unheard of. I've never heard of another faculty, and I'm not bragging about it at all. I'm just saying that they really wanted me. And guess what? I got there last year, and within a month, I thought to myself, oh my God, what did I do? I had a perfect situation where I was in my old university. It was ideal. I had state of the art. I was doing research like this. This is groundbreaking, world leading research. What was I thinking? Well, what I was thinking was, gosh, that looks pretty nice over there. I don't know, Pitt, that's a big name. Man, their grass is so green. I got to get over there. I mean, listen, I've got to. I mean, look at this. This is where I'm at is nothing. That's better grass. No, it ain't. No, it ain't. Right where you are right now in this time of your life with Isogenics, the grass has never been greener than under your feet. Right now, take a look under your feet. That grass has never been greener. And I'll tell you right now with 100% confidence and certainty that it sure as heck is a lot greener than the grass on that other side of the fence. So I mean this with total sincerity. I know it's a simple little analogy, but I experienced it. And thank God my previous school welcomed my wife and I back with open arms. They were delighted to have us come back, and Pitt was shocked. I mean, they thought, what? You're going back to that? It was a no-brainer. I mean, I was 3 to 5 years minimum away from doing the research that I was doing like this that you have in front of you right here at Pitt. So yeah, trust me, the grass has never been greener than under your feet right now with Isogenics. So I want to talk about this one because this one is very rarely talked about, and the findings of it are just so profound that, again, we should be screaming this from the rooftop. And again, it's Isogenics. So several years ago, I did a study at Pitt. That was, one of the favors that I did for them in, preparation for, this recruitment process that they wined and dined me for 3 years on. I collaborated with some of my colleagues at Pitt, and I wanted to test the AMP Nitro and at the time Power. I know Power is no longer being offered, but it will be now that I'm in the position that I am. So for those of you that don't want the caffeine jolt, I don't. Power's coming back. I don't know if I can say that with 100% certainty, but I'm sure as heck going to do my very best to bring it back because we're missing out massively because women should be doing this on a daily basis, this power or nitro if you can handle the caffeine. We all need to be taking in creatine on a regular daily basis. It's actually imperative, not for your muscles. I mean, yeah, it helps your muscles, but it is instrumental in helping with brain health. And we can't compromise that. So yeah, I just feel so strongly about these things. I can't wait to really start to make these changes with Isogenics. They've done so wonderful, but there are some things that we need to definitely continue to enhance. And this is one of them. Bring back power. We need to get creatine back in the whole line for everybody, especially for those that are caffeine sensitive. So what I did was I recruited the most fit athletes at the University of Pittsburgh, and we were looking for those between the ages of 18 and 30. So some were graduate students that were still competing at a very high level. These, I mean, when they came into the lab, I was startled. I mean, these were fit men and women. So again, the ability, and I listen, I know some of you are probably asking, why is it that you take already fit people, Dr. Paul? Here's why, you guys. If we can demonstrate a physiological benefit in the fittest of the fit, what do you think we're going to find in those people that are everyday Jack and Jills? Massive benefit. So I'm always, as a scientist, thinking one step ahead. I'm thinking, yeah, I could demonstrate this in average, normal, everyday people and see massive results, but what do we think might happen in those that are already at a really high level? That's when it really hits the rubber hits the road. When you can demonstrate an improvement, as I did in the studies that I just showed you, in already fit people, in this one with nitro and power, in the fittest of the fit young people, because the other study was in middle-aged men and women, this one was in young men and women, you've won the day, people. You should be shouting this, screaming this, yelling this, running through the streets about this. I mean that sincerely. This is magnificent data. Look at this. Here's the results. So amp power and nitro. This is Wingate power. And I know that name doesn't mean much to anybody, if anyone at all on this call, but it's a measure of our power. It's similar to the ballistic measurement system where you saw Clinton V throwing it up with their chest or jumping up with their legs. This one is on a cycle ergometer where you pedal as fast as you can for 30 seconds. It's a miserable test, but it's a wonderful test. You pedal as fast and as hard as you can for 30 seconds with a resistance. So you have what's called a vagal response where your stomach gets very nauseous and many people get sick after, but it's the purest form of science that you can do. It's the cream of the crop, gold standard of measuring your power. Look at these results. So we had three groups. Well, not three groups. We had each of them come in 3 different times. That's another thing. The rigor of these studies is second to none. Not only did we have the same subjects doing the same test, but we randomized when they did them. So we didn't have 3 groups of separate people doing it because that wouldn't have been nearly as good. This is called a placebo-controlled study, a placebo-controlled study. We had them come in not knowing what they were getting. They were totally blinded. We were blinded to it as well. We had one independent person that knew what they were getting. That wasn't revealed until after the study was done. Cream of the crop, gold standard, highest level research of rigorous sophistication you can do. These subjects came in 3 different times. Think about that. I mean, that's a time-consuming study. You guys, I'm going to say it again. I don't think you really know what you have. And now that I'm in this position, I'm going to ensure that every single Isogenics associate understands this at the most basic understandable detail as they can, because it's those details that win the day. When you can explain this physiologically and you can talk about the sophistication of the rigor of this design of the study that was used to test the Isogenics products, people are going to be blown away. They're going to have absolutely no reservation. They're going to want to sign up on the spot and get their friends to do the same thing. This study was magnificent. We showed a 3% increase with power, 3%, and up to a 4% with the Wingate. Listen, you guys, this was 30 seconds. I mean, think about that. It's not much more than a 100-meter dash, or let's say it's a 200-meter dash for the average person, because that's about the length of time that an average person would run 200 meters. Maybe they could get to 25 seconds, but somewhere it's going to be, most people, it's going to be 25 to 35 seconds. This is a short window of time to see that much of an improvement. This is the difference, and I calculated this because I was interested with people. It's the difference between winning the gold medal of the 200-meter, like help me out. I should know. Noah Lyles won. I know it's not Noah because my middle son's name is Noah. Noah Lyles won in the 200-meter. And guess what? The one that came in sixth place. So you're either winning the gold medal or you're coming in sixth and no one knows who your name is. That's what the difference is. That's what power and nitro will do for you. This is phenomenal results. I hope you guys are listening and just getting so excited, because I did these studies. I published these years ago and I get so smoking, psyched about them, because the data has held the test of time. The data will hold the test of time. The data is powerful, impactful, groundbreaking. It's pioneering. You all have this and we're just not using it. So one of the other indicators that we use for fitness is a substance in our blood called lactate. Now, many of you associate that with harmful effects of exercise, and you think, oh gosh, I don't want lactate to build up. Well, let me just dispel a myth right off the bat. The highest trained, the highest, most successful athletes, this is going to blow you away. I hope you're all listening, have the greatest ability to generate the highest levels of lactate. That's interesting, Dr. Paul. So you're saying that the athletes that perform the best generate the most lactic acid? Well, that doesn't make any sense at all, because we know lactic acid is bad. So why would the greatest performing athletes generate the highest levels of lactate? Well, hopefully you've just blown your mind away. Lactate is good for us. Lactate is reconverted back into an energy source in our muscles and in our heart. Those of us that generate higher levels of lactate are more successful. So dispel that myth that you think, oh gosh, I don't want lactate. Oh my God, if you build up lactate and your muscles get sore, that's not good. That means you're not in shape. Dog water, just the opposite. Those athletes that can generate the highest levels of lactate are the most successful. So we documented it. We proved it. You guys have it. It's Isagenix at the highest level. When you take Isagenix power, which I'm definitely going to make sure that we get that back into the product line, and the nitro, you generate more lactate. That's amazing, both during the Wingate, 30 seconds, and the VO2 max. And I haven't talked about the VO2 peak thing. That's your body's ability to use ATP with oxygen. The Wingate is just a 30-second all-out sprint, and you're working what's called anaerobically. Whenever you see the word AN before a word, that means without. So anytime it's an, it's without. Anytime it's the AE, in terms of aerobic, that means you're working with oxygen. Anaerobic, no oxygen. So on the left here is the anaerobic Wingate. It was a 30-second test, significant generation of lactic acid. And as you already saw, you generate massively more power. So is lactate good? Heck yeah, it is good. Don't let anybody ever tell you that it's not good. It's definitely good. And then on the right, we also documented that when you took the nitro, you were able to generate significantly more. How much is that? 31% and whatever, 28%. I have my glasses on. So you were able to generate significantly more lactic acid during the aerobic, so with oxygen treadmill test. Some of you have done that when you go to the doctor and they get you on a treadmill and they bring you up gradually higher and higher with the grade and the speed. Listen, the bottom line is it's amazing what these Isagenix products do for your fitness and for your ability to get back into the game of life. Now, listen, here's the thing. On the left, let's make this real life. The Wingate. Oh, Dr. Paul, when am I going to get on a bike and ride until I have to puke for 30 seconds? Well, probably never, hopefully. No, if you have the opportunity, it's actually a really good test because it's very telling. But let's say, for example, you had to do something really important to save your life or save somebody else's life in some way, shape, or form. I don't know what it would come in, but you have to act quickly with massive action, with all of your body for a short period of time that puts you completely out of breath. Okay, well, there you go. That's a real life situation where you might need to do that. Or even if it's not to that level of extreme of saving somebody's life, but let's say it's running to catch a bus or running to catch your next flight at the airport. Imagine getting to the gate where you had to run at top speed, out of breath, and get there and recover. Oh my gosh, think about that. You could recover within 30 seconds instead of being in the the jetway leading to the plane, breathing like a dog, panting out of breath. That's what the Wingate test would allow you to do. That's what the Nitro Empower would allow you to do. These are real life things. It happens to me all the time. I fly all the time, every week. And there's often times that I have to move a little bit quicker to get to my next flight. I love being able to get there and within seconds, literally, of sprinting through the airport, recovering. I mean, why wouldn't you want to lower your threshold of expenditure of your energy so that you have a ceiling that's much higher, right? I mean, think about that. Most people live their lives like this. Their maximum is here and their everyday living is here. How about this? I hope you can all see my hands. My hands are moving. One's going down, one's going up. Imagine if you had this much greater window of ability to stay where you're at your rest to what your maximum could be. Oh, we call that gain, Gain, in the physiology world. So for those of you that are interested in learning more physiology from me, I hope I'm going to be able to do this for you. That's called your gain. You want a massive gain. Right now, among the people that are living with the 5 diseases of aging that RFK and Casey and Callie Means talk about, guess what? Their gain is nearly zero. When they get up in the morning and go to the bathroom, brush their teeth, take a shower, they're almost at their maximum of expenditure. How sad is that for the majority of the population to be living in that world? We want to be able to do those things, those activities of daily living, and still have a massive gain that we have in terms of what we're able to do in between. That's what the gain is. That's called physiological gain. You guys just learned another term. Wow, I'm throwing a huge amount of, quick tidbit lessons here for you. So you want gain in life, dudes. Yeah, you want gain. And so the same thing with VO2 peak. I mean, you have to extend that exertion over, minutes. I know I'm going a little bit long here, but I'm having so much fun because this data is so compelling. So this is the VO2 max. It was a 3% increase. To put this into perspective, I know, Hawker. Oh my gosh, was that a phenomenal race when he won that? I can't remember, was it the mile? The 1500 meter? Yeah, I think it was the mile. Hocker from the American at the Olympics. I mean, what an unbelievable race. The guy shocked the world. He shocked the world. That was an aerobic race, although he was pretty anaerobic at the end. Again, a 3% difference was him winning the race. And let's say he didn't take nitro. I don't know if he took nitro, but let's just assume maybe he did. If he didn't take it, he would have finished 10th place in that race without the nitro. That's what a 3% difference is in our aerobic fitness. All right. Gosh, this was so fun. I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. It's powerful data. For those of you that live in the world of living in the game of life and wanting to participate in the game of life, this data is top level, top shelf, so valuable for your everyday living. We want more gain, people. We don't want to have a low gain. And that's what the nitro does. That's what there was one more slide I want to share you. Because people ask, Dr. Paul, don't leave us hanging. What were they taking during those other studies? Let me show you. I'm sorry. This is what they were taking, people. This was a woman. Let me see if I can pull this out of the way. Yeah. I don't know if it's on your screen or not, but it's on mine. So we had one of our study participants. She was 59 kilograms. She was about 122 pounds. We made sure that she was taking in 120 grams every day of protein. She had to hit that goal, 120 grams. This was in the 12-week study, the prize study. All right. She had Isopro, we didn't have the tri-release, but the tri-release is, just as good, if not better. We were using the Isopro at the time of the study. She did 12 grams before she worked out. People say, what, Dr. Paul? I thought you weren't supposed to eat before you work out. You better eat before you work out. If you want to have a less than workout, well, then don't eat. You'll have a less than workout. If you want to have a more than, if you want to benefit from your workout, you sure as heck better consume something. The one exception to that would be maybe once a week when you do fasted core exercises, but not cardio or weightlifting. Maybe yoga if you're doing a lot of inversion poses. You can kind of reduce it, but even then, we were encouraging them all to do something, have half of a bar. So one of the things I didn't include in this, she didn't prefer the bars, so she was more of an Isopro, but you could easily replace this with eating half of one of the bars if you wanted to. But this was just her routine. She liked the Isopro. She did the Isa coffee. She was a nitro person, but then, the Knox. The power I put in parentheses because it's no longer, or the e-shot. These are optional. She didn't do all of these things, so don't think that you have to do the coffee and the nitro and the e-shot. Definitely do not do that. Choose one of those. And then the hydrate, at the time of the study, it was called Replenish, for those of you that remember when it was called Replenish, but it's hydrate now. And then the BCAAs. All right. And then after her workout, she did the isoline. She did a smoothie. So she did the isoline. Sometimes she did the isoline pro because we used the isoline pro. Most of the men did the isoline pro. But she had some fruit. Usually it was some frozen blueberries or raspberries or blackberries, maybe some bananas occasionally, definitely some honey. And people are always up in arms about, oh my gosh, you can't do sugar. That's dog water. Yes, you can if it's naturally occurring. You sure as heck don't want to do sugar substitutes or artificial sugars. That would be not healthy for you. If you have an opportunity to flavor some of your shakes or some of your feedings of protein pacing meals with naturally occurring, and I love honey. I don't go a day without several tablespoons of honey. And I maintain my, less than 9% body fat doing it. So sugar is not an evil by any means, especially if it's from naturally occurring sources. So yeah, she was a big fan and she got ripped. So honey, avocado, coconut butter, nut butter, 30 grams for that breakfast. Lunch was 36 grams, Isoline Pro and some veggies. Sometimes she would flip the lunch and the dinner, depending upon her schedule. And then dinner or whatever lunch, meal it was that she chose was beef, fish, chicken, pork, and veggies, 30 grams. Not all of those, one of them. And then sometimes she added a small portion of a grain if she felt like she needed it. And then before bed, it was the tri-release Isopro and the Ionics. There you have it, people. Thank you so much, Dave. I'm sorry if I went over, but gosh, when I get talking about this stuff, it's so awesome. I get so fired up. I don't do caffeine, by the way, you guys. This is just how I am. So get used to it. But the teaching and the physiology and the real life application as a scientist, that's what I want to bring to Isogenics over the next, hopefully, 5-10 years, because this is the world I've been living in. This is the application. This is the implementation of the science. You've had great people before me in terms of the roles that have been played with the chief science officers, but I bring a very unique and different approach to it because I'm one of you as a scientist, and I've studied this, and I feel that making that connection at your level, as opposed to being in the, is going to win the day for all of you. So that's what I'm most excited about doing. And hey, thanks for having me. Thanks for your attention. And yeah, you guys are the best.
This was awesome. Everybody, I'm sure, is just mind blown. Lots of great comments, and just it's not been too long in waiting. It's perfect. This is perfect. You coming in at this time. And to me, it's like, it's the perfect scenario.
Yeah, I agree.
This information, we're just all eating it up. I don't know if you were seeing the comments. I'm gonna have to.
I wasn't. I was in my world.
It's awesome, And you were saying like the down to earth stuff, like with the everyday stuff. I remember when I started sharing Isogenics proactively, some of the things that I was hearing from people, and they were older people, that were losing their health and their strength, and it was comments like, "I don't need help out of the couch anymore. I can get out of the couch by myself." or I can go up the stairs now and not stop halfway.
With groceries.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and going to the mall, and now we can't keep up with him. And I even had somebody said, not only did we, not have to sit down at the amusement park, we were going on the rides with the grandkids. These are the
Yeah, I love it.
real everyday stuff.
Awesome.
But I am so excited about this. Do you have time for just a couple questions?
Sure.
So
I've got a question, Dave. When you mentioned hormones, were you speaking specifically about testosterone? Because I'm here with Mary Sellers. She just opened a testosterone clinic. In fact, we're at the Paradise Spa, and she has an office here.
Cool.
And I just wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah. So in the one study that we did, and I can just bring it up for you. We measured hormones in both the men and the women, and the journal that we published in actually was, she might know it, it's called Growth Hormone and IGF-1, that's insulin-like growth factor 1 research. It's a very, very established, well respected hormone endocrinology journal. And we did measure the hormones. We didn't measure, I can't remember if we measured testosterone. I should know this. Let me go to the actual table. Again, this was a while ago. The IGF-1 was very interesting because we did see a trend for the IGF-1. This is the actual data that I summarized for you in the slides. So let's see what we did measure. We measured growth hormone. We measured brain-derived neurotropic factor, and you can see, some of the changes in growth hormone there. Pre to post.
Are you showing something? We're not seeing your screen. I don't know.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I didn't want to take up too much time. I guess I'm doing this. So we measured growth hormone, and we measured IGF-1, which is insulin-like growth factor 1. And here's what was so interesting. IGF-1, that's a hormone that is associated with enhanced muscular development. Had a significant increase in the prize group. So there was something very unique and different. Again, both groups did the same exercise, but the nutritionals were solely responsible. We can actually say that because there was no difference in any other lifestyle component. Sleep was the same, exercise was the same. It was just the nutrition. So there was something very unique about the protein pacing with the isogenics in that study that increased this hormone IGF-1. We didn't do testosterone, or maybe we did, but there was no difference in the groups. So
awesome. Good info. Can you take too much protein at one time? I know they're saying like 36 grams, somewhere around there every 2 hours. But if you took more protein, like let's say I did 65 grams at one time, does it turn that into fat, or does the body just get rid of it, or what does it do if you get protein at
no,
one
that's a really good question. No, that's an old myth. There's actually, we don't know what the upper limit is of the body being able to take in and utilize protein. We know that 100 grams has been shown to be completely incorporated into our body without being what we call oxidized or burned, definitely not turned into fat. That is completely dispelled. There's absolutely no evidence scientifically for that at all. In fact, there was a wonderful study that came out several months ago. And again, it's one of the other studies that I have that you can easily consume above 30, 40, 50 grams, and your body will utilize it very effectively. Now, if you're doing that regularly at the same time, what I mean is, over the course of the day, unless you're somebody who needs it, like 50 grams 4 times a day is actually recommended. That's what I do. I do close to 40 to 50 grams 4 times a day. So I'm right around 180 to 200 grams of protein a day, and I have been doing that for decades. And I'm pretty healthy. But yeah, everyone should be doing, those similar amounts for their body weight. But yeah, in terms of a single feeding, if you're somebody, and I've been guilty of this, so I confess, where I don't have an opportunity to protein pace, that's the ideal. But I maybe had my shake in the morning, and then I just got out on the road, busy, lost track of time, and I don't get home until 7 or 8 at night. I'll power down a 75 sometimes 100-gram protein. And I know full well with absolutely no definite, bad side effects, but only healthy side effects and benefit that protein is going into replenishing, restoring, rejuvenating, and helping rebuild my tissues of my body, whether it's my muscles, my vital organs, my brain tissue. But yeah, please don't let anyone ever tell you that consuming more than 40 to 50 grams at a single serving of protein is bad for you. There's absolutely zero scientific evidence to suggest that that's not healthy for us. In fact, the research shows that in study participants who consumed 100-gram serving over the course of a 12-hour time period, so they fed them 100 grams at one time within a 12-hour feeding period, all of it went into incorporation in the body of the cells of the body. It wasn't burned as energy. It wasn't stored as body fat. That's a total misconception. Now, is it ideal to break it up into the protein pacing servings of that 30 to 50 grams 4 times a day? 100%. That would be a better strategy for sure. But if you needed to do a 50 to 100-gram serving at one time to make up for some of the missed protein pacing meals, nothing but healthy for you. Nothing but healthy for you. I hope this is being recorded because I want to go on record for this. Because if people start to think, oh my God, Dr. Paul said this, but I can't repeat it because I don't know if it's true. It's 100% true. Yes, you can definitely go above it.
That's good information.
Yeah, there was one other thing that I wanted to comment on, but I can't remember. Yeah.
There's somebody that's asking a question a couple times, and I know we can't make any claims, and you can give us maybe clinical stuff. And you even the arteries, like 5 times less stiffness with the arteries. That's amazing. That shows the body's ability to repair, right? With the proper nutrition, because that's a problem going on in the body, and the body's rebalancing that out. If somebody has a pacemaker, and I've shared isogens with a lot of people that have pacemakers with wonderful results. What could you say, like, for somebody that might have a concern, or because we know the organs are going to operate better, we know that the body's going to, do this repairing process. Is there anything that you could say specifically that comes to mind with somebody that might, have a pacemaker?
I would say in every condition of our body, whether it's diseased or healthy, you would benefit from this, with the one exception, if somebody was in some type of acute renal kidney insufficiency, or significant kidney failure, then you would want to ease the protein back in. And the reason why many times people's kidneys do begin to fail is because they haven't been exercising the kidneys with a healthy amount of protein. That's the truth of the matter. We know that the kidneys flourish when it has a higher amount of protein. Again, there was another great study that came out that proved that individuals that have chronic kidney disease, CKD, it's called chronic kidney disease, CKD. Guess what? Those that consumed more protein did better. So for those of you that are out there that said, oh, Dr. Paul, I heard that, if you have kidney disease, it's not good to have a high protein diet. Yeah, just the opposite. This study showed very convincingly in the hepatology journal that those individuals that had chronic kidney disease that consumed more protein were healthier. So yeah, another myth to dispel, because it's just it's dogma and incorrect information that gets perpetuated, and it's unfortunate. The kidneys need to get worked out. The kidneys need to be worked. If you're holding back, unless it's again in a real insufficient state or a really significant acute failure state of the kidneys, then no, you would not want to tax it. It's much like, if your muscles were completely destroyed, you wouldn't want to exercise. That would not be good. You want to have them recover and rest, and then slowly, or if they're, severely atrophied, you wouldn't want to dump a whole bunch of weight on them. You'd want to slowly progress back up to health. The same way with the
conditions come from that metabolic issue, right?
Metabolic dysfunction, Dave. Yeah, it's all the crap that
you would have positive results.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, no, these are great questions. I'm so glad we got to this point, because there's so many myths and misinformation and dogma that gets perpetuated. one of the consequences of that tobacco industry moving over to the food industry in the 80s was the food guide pyramid, where we were all duped, of course. And we started to reduce the protein. Everyone used to say, oh, steak and potatoes is bad for you, right? We all heard that. Oh, we eat too much protein. That was just absolutely such a false narrative. Nothing was further from the truth. That was what was keeping us so healthy. And since the early 1980s, there's been a population-wide decrease in our protein intake. If you look at the scientific data in the leading medical science journals, the US population intake of protein has declined. The intake of carbohydrates have gone up, fats have stayed the same, but the quality of the fats have decreased severely, and the quality of the carbohydrates have decreased severely, even though the quantity has gone up. It has completely mirrored the increase in metabolic dysfunction, visceral fat obesity. So every disease has gone up in direct correlation and proportion with this decline in protein intake and increase in carbohydrate intake. You tell me. Listen, I'm a huge proponent, many of you know, with plant-based eating. I love fruits and vegetables, but not at the expense of high quality protein. I'll say it again. 5 a day should not be at the expense of the highest quality protein and undenatured grass-fed whey protein. Never should you do that. Before you eat your 5 a day, get your high quality protein and undenatured whey protein grass-fed.
More gains, more gains.
More gains.
I love
you guys, man, you just got a mind full of info. I'm so glad I was able to share it with you. Take it and run with it. There's going to be a lot more to come. And I'm just so excited, so grateful. Thanks for having me.
I've got one more question. Dave MacArthur is a PowerPoint-oholic. That means he has a severe addiction to PowerPoint. Would you share some of this slide deck with him? Because I know he'd put it to really good use.
Yeah, I'm gonna see what I can do about that. I know that now that I'm in the position that I'm in with Isagenix, I have to just make sure I get these things, passed and approved. But I don't see any reason why I couldn't. So yes, I'd be happy to do that. Yeah,
because when we talk about the clinical studies, that showing people how those machines measured because that 1,400% increase in lower body explosive power, that changed my life as far as skiing goes.
Awesome.
It was unreal.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thanks, Dr. Paul. And I know we haven't gone long, but we want to respect your time. We totally, love it. As you settle in as the CSO, right? Is that what it is? Chief Science Officer?
Head of Science and Development, yeah.
And you start to develop, this perspective from that. We'd love to have you back again and give us the bigger, broader picture of humanity and Isagenix and us playing a role in that and what you're seeing, and maybe cast your vision for that as well in the future here. But we sure are so grateful for you guys. Give them a shout out in the chat for being here tonight. And Dr. Paul, I'm at a loss for words for how excited I am for you to be at the helm here. I don't think the English language has those words yet. So.
Oh, that's nice. That's sweet.
We're so grateful for you.
Yeah, thank you. Love you all. Okay, see you soon. See you next week, hopefully at Celebration.
Yes, we'll be there.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you. All right, he's off. I'm going to unmute this if anybody just wants to give shout outs, and you can unmute yourselves. But that was awesome. What a great, lots of information. I'm just trying to fix there we go. Lots of great information. I love this kind of environment. Like, this is what got me into Isagenix, and Susan Sly, Jim Rose, Dr. Colgan, so many of these proponents in Isagenix that were the professionals and that were teaching us specifically, like we got tonight, like the real data, the real information that you could actually do something with and be educated by it, and then make better educated decisions, and then share those with other people and have that confidence behind it as well, because it was real data, it's real science. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super excited with the direction that we're headed. And, this is kind of like, for me, like we're just getting started again.
I agree. Energy over the top. It's so absolutely amazing. I put on there, this is the most excitement that I've seen and felt since I came in 20 years ago. It's absolutely changing isogenics, and we are definitely on for the next wave. I'm very excited.
Yeah, I hope they give him a piece at Isogenics from the stage, from Celebration, to where he can share some of that enthusiasm and knowledge.
Yeah.
That'd be great. All right, you guys, awesome. What a good science night for Thursday. That was the science night of all science nights, Thursday night. So we'll see you Saturday morning. We'll do a great shakeup. And I got some clips along with the Tucker Carlson interview that I'm playing along with Dr. Paul's from the last Zoom that we did. So I'll be doing that on this Zoom, 9 o'clock Mountain Time, so 8 o'clock Pacific. And for those that want to join and see what that is.
Dave,
all right, you guys.
Dave, 1 second. Are we ever get the nitro power again? Do we have that coffee?
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you.
No, the nitro power he's talking about. We used to, Isogenics used to have the nitro power. I think there's something, we'll try to get it back again. I misunderstood.
Oh, the power, the amp line power. We use nitro now, but power was without the natural caffeine. So he wants to bring it back without the caffeine.
It's not a coffee. It's like a pre-workout.
Pre-workout. It's a powder you mix with water.
That's great.
I put the nitro in my bike, in my water bottle for my bike.
That's beautiful. It's great. Thank you.
All right. Yeah. Jim, did you want to say something? Okay. All right. You guys have a great night. We'll see you Saturday or at Celebration. Looking forward to it. See you guys.
Good night.